Screenagers, we are back. Another episode of the Canon, another essential movie coming your way. Very excited for this episode. Before we talk about American Graffiti, which is our film for the day, I'm very excited to bring in this guest. This is an old dear friend of mine, someone who I've been talking about movies with for like 25 plus years at this point.
Yeah, longer
Um,
maybe.
it's been very, very, very long. Dylan Wolf Gantz, welcome to the Canon. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. Thank you for having me. This is an awesome deal. Yeah,
Yeah,
we've known each other we're old, man. We've known each other for like over 20, 25, 28 years or something like that.
yeah,
A
it's
long
it's
time.
insane. So we're going to be talking American Graffiti. We'll get to that at some point, which I think will be kind of fitting for us because we like grew up together and like experienced high school together. So like the things that the feelings that this movie was bringing up are like things that we have shared experiences of experiencing together. But before we get into that, you, Dylan, are a filmmaker. So you
Yes.
have a film that you are currently working on that we're going to have to talk about.
But I'm
We'll talk about some like, yeah,
shamelessly promoting on your show.
that's what I'm here for.
That's the point.
If I can't have my friends come on and plug cool shit that they're working
Yeah,
on, then like, what's the point of being here?
that's fair.
So we got to talk about that. We'll talk about our oldest memories, talking
Hmm.
about movies and shit together, and then we'll get into a little bit of American Graffiti talk and all that good stuff. But this movie that you're working on currently, Liquor Store,
Yeah.
give us a quick pitch
Yeah.
idea. What's like the background about this movie? When did you start making it? What's the idea behind it? All that good stuff.
So the whole core of it, my pops used to work at a liquor store down in the village. And basically, one day my mom walked in and, like, bing, bang, boom, I popped out. To make a really long story short there, but no, he worked at this liquor store, and it was run by this like classic old school Brooklyn Jew named Morty, and I even
Yeah.
remember Morty. And he was this kind of like magic man, like with that was like really gruff but also loving. And yeah, my mom came into the store, and my dad, you know, put the moves on. And the stories though that come out of the liquor store and the stories that my mom and dad tell about those times are just so like vibrant and fun and funny and just like full of life and full of New York, um, which is a really I'm finding, because I'm in grad school now. This is my grad school thesis project at City College. This is my second year project, and I went to film school for undergrad. But I was what? We're 18 to 22, 23 when you're in undergrad. I was an idiot. I don't know like what I want to talk about. Like my movies were about like gangsters with guns, which there's nothing wrong with that. But like I don't know. It's like every kid's script was about a hitman or whatever, and like what?
Yeah.
So
We were very much so raised by like the
yeah,
like
which are
Goodfellas and
they're
like
great
Pulp Fiction
movies.
and stuff. Yeah.
And And honestly, those movies still inform me. Goodfellas actually really informs Liquor Store a lot, but I'm just putting my own kind of spin on this, and I'm learning about really finding like what is my voice as a filmmaker. And like I love old New York. I love like New York history and the people that make it a real place, old businesses and shopkeepers. And it's sad because like those places are a little bit few and far between now.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons I'm making this movie is to try and keep that feeling alive. I also just like, you know, my dad would tell me stories about working with the guys in the liquor store and Morty. And like, when I hear really good stories, I'm like, especially that are filled with such characters, I wanted to be there. So this is
Yeah.
my way of putting myself there, just making a movie about it. Um, but it's been a really enjoyable process, but also it's just so much work making movies. And this is a short film, so this is a 15-minute film.
Mhm.
But even that is just it's so much work. It's a lot and a lot of time and effort. Time is the biggest thing I'm finding is
Yeah.
if you work and you go to school and everyone that you're making a movie with, like we're not. Netflix isn't paying us, Universal Studios isn't paying us. We're doing this because we love it. Hopefully one
Yeah.
day we get paid for it. But that's kind of the that's a big amalgam of a
The
shit
overall.
liquor store.
Yeah. So we were kind of talking about it before we started recording, but the whole idea of this movie being like kind of a like romantic
Hmm.
vision or like view of New York City and like what it can be, I think is super interesting. Like I know for me, like I have a super romantic view of the city. My parents also like
Hmm.
met in New York and would tell me stories about it. Like a very similar background there. We grew up like right outside of the city, but it
Yep.
was always kind of like there in the background and like a lot of people who we grew up with sort of similar vibes. And then we end up in New York City. And I think like to be able to keep that spirit alive, like I was like going through the movie's like Instagram page and I was getting like kind of getting chills just like
Oh man.
seeing like the images, like the black and white images of New York City and just like being so in love with like that energy and everything that that's like associated with that. And it's I do appreciate, you know, that you are keeping that spirit alive through this movie. So I am very hyped to see it
Thanks,
once
brother.
it actually does come out. So this is your thesis project
Hmm.
for grad school. You've worked on a few other projects. You talked about like gangsters with guns and stuff. Like what
Okay.
other things have you made sort of like leading up to this?
Um, the that one actually, I'll tell you that one that I made, the Gangsters with Guns one that I'm thinking of, was a really stupid one. I just want to say what it was. Just I feel like people, film students don't talk about the really shitty film student movies they make. So that was called Tom and Jerry, and one of the gangsters. I There's no context to this, but for whatever reason, and I was Jerry, and my buddy Dane, who was this like tall, like male model looking guy, was Tom, and once a year, every year, for I don't know why, Tom got to sleep with Jerry's wife. And the short film was Jerry Has Had Enough. And it's just Tom monologues about how he loves sleeping with Jerry's wife. And then Jerry turns around and shoots him in the head. And it just says like Tom and Jerry in like white, like calligraphy script at the end, like as the blood
Yeah.
like slowly drips down the window. It's not my best work. I've ever finished that. My teacher was like, "So what's kind of the point of that?" And I was like, "I don't know.
I don't know. It
I
seemed
wanted to
cool.
wear." And there was a guy in my program that was like a former military or something, and he gave me a really realistic looking gun. And I remember him like handing it off to me in the subway, like in a paper bag, and it was such a it's a very visceral at Columbus Circle. I felt like I was doing like a real
That's a movie right there.
yeah. That's a better
Yeah.
movie than what I made.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess the other stuff that I've made uh, in undergrad, I made a film called Città dei Sogni about these two Italian boys that run away from home in Italy.
Mhm.
I made it with my ex girlfriend at the time, or my girlfriend at the time became my ex girlfriend. She was the director, I was the writer, and she was
Mhm.
from Puglia, Italy, and we filmed it over there. And that movie did really well at my school's award ceremony. And then that movie got to go to Cannes, the Cannes Short Film Corner. So I
Oh
went
wow.
there with that when I
That's
was,
awesome.
yeah, and that was a really cool experience. But another one of those experiences where it's like you think you're hot shit, and then you go to the place and it's like a little fish in a big pond doesn't even begin to describe what we were there. We were like
Like a
tiny
dot.
specks in the scant span of the universe. But it was a really cool experience. I saw an Almodovar film premiere there, and we got to walk the red carpet because there was like a lottery for doing that, which was
Yeah.
cool. Um, and then for a long time, I've been working at a uh, after school program teaching film. So for the past like 6 years, I've been making movies with middle schoolers,
That's
and
awesome.
the movies we make rock. Like the kids will
Yeah.
come up to me and they'll have like this one kid was like, "Can we make a movie that's like the Knights of the Round Table, but it's in a middle school?" And I was like, "Can we make that? Not only are we going to make that, we're stopping everything we're doing to do that. And we made like armor out of, and Raf, you know me, like, I got my
Yeah,
Robin poster over here. The second someone says knights or swords or whatever, like, I'm
you're
in.
in.
So we
Yeah.
had like the kids wearing like cardboard armor, and oh my god, I'll have to find a way for you to watch it because I can't share the movies on social, obviously, 'cause it's kids. But there's some of the kids just did. It was so freaking funny. They're so funny, and that's the best. So sharing it with them, and
Yeah, that's
then
sweet.
last year in undergrad or in grad school was my first semester, and I did this one. There's a couple films that are up on YouTube now, but I need to like start to promote them. I made a
Mhm.
documentary about um, Dave's Italian Meaderia in Quaker Ridge. Do you know
Why
that?
do I not
He's
why do I not
he's
know this?
the butcher right next to Quaker Ridge Bagels, next to the Grape
Oh,
Exchange, where the wine store is.
yes. Yeah.
And he,
That's a reference that, like, 3 people listening would.
yeah, yeah, someone is going to be watching this, be like, Grape Exchange,
Yeah.
Dave.
Quick Rich Bagels, I know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've known Dave, the butcher, for like my whole life. My dad, he
Mhm.
always like caters us for when we're having like Thanksgiving, but also my dad will get really good lasagnas and meats from him and stuff. And I've known him since I was like a little kid. And
Mhm.
I made the assignment was to make a documentary, something like maybe we couldn't use. I forgot. They give us these parameters as students, and then we all
Mhm.
just do whatever we want,
Yeah.
basically.
It's, like, very loose
Yeah, because
rules or whatever. Yeah.
I think the thing was we couldn't use an interview, but I ended up using an interview, but not a sit down interview. But it was really cool. I followed Dave around in the meaderia and the butcher for a couple of days, and it's a film that I'm really proud of because it also goes back to the liquor store thing that we were talking about. It's an old place that really respects community, and people go in there, and Dave knows you, and he's fed you, he's fed your father and mother, and like, and
Yeah.
again, those places, they're few and far between now. So I made that film, and then my big movie last year, which I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it, but I
Mhm.
think I could have given. I don't know. Filmmakers are always going to beat themselves up, but I
Yeah.
made a film called Tiger Eyes about a female Puerto Rican boxer that finds out she's pregnant and basically like has to decide what she's going to do. But it's a really minimal move. Like there's no
Yeah.
scenes in a boxing ring. I think the name of the assignment was I forgot but it was to just keep it like a really contained story with minimal dialogue, which is like
Mhm.
I love talking and I love characters talking. So like telling me to not have my characters talk was a fun kind of the challenge. I like the challenges
Yeah.
when you give me. And then the final one that I made last year was it's called a photo roman. This is another assignment that was pretty cool, where you have to tell a story only in photographs. So you couldn't use
Okay.
images,
No moving images.
but you could kind of fake it. It just had
Mhm.
to be stills. And I adapted the Greek myth of Apollo and Daphne, which is
Mhm.
like he falls in love with her, but she hates him. So then she gets turned into a laurel tree to escape because he's chasing her all around. But we did like kind of a cool like Tarantino-y, like I dressed them in modern clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
I shot it all in like the photo studio in my school, so it was very minimal backgrounds, and but it was fun. It was cool. But really,
Those are no, I was gonna say those are, like, cool different, like, experiences or cool different, experiments in filmmaking
yeah,
where it's, like, different than kind of, like, how you're used to typically
absolutely.
making stuff or, like, what you would sort of, like, naturally gravitate towards, and obviously, like, I think that just, like, having all those, like, tools in your toolkit will just make you, like, that much better of a filmmaker
No,
going forward.
it's true. It's also like I think when like all filmmakers or like actors, I think the great ones are the ones that can do many different things. Like I
Mhm.
always say, like for acting, like if you look at Joaquin Phoenix in Walk the Line, and you look
Mhm.
at him in like a movie like The Master, those are two completely different people. Like
Yeah.
that is, really it's like breadth, right? Like can you make so many different kinds of things? And it really it's just having more arrows in the quiver, more
Yeah.
experiences, more, and it really all, but it's really all culminating in this liquor store thing, which is like, for me, I have to look at it as more than my thesis film. I have to
Mhm.
it can't just be, if you treat it like an assignment, if you treat any of these things like an assignment, that's what they're going to come out as. And
Mhm.
this is grad school. It's not middle school, it's not high school, like it's we're there for a reason, and I think all of these, and me, my classmates, I have a great group. We treat our films as such, and that's been a cool thing, a really cool thing.
That dude, it's very awesome seeing you do this. Um, Again, after all these years, like you're
Yeah,
just like fully in it. You're fully doing the thing. When you reached out to me, I was like, absolutely, I would love to to have
cool.
you on
Yeah.
and just like pick your brain about what it's like making movies. And it sounds like yeah, you're absolutely killing it. So I'm excited for Liquor Store. I'm excited for everything that comes post Liquor Store. You were talking about some of the like challenges with making this one specifically and like
Hmm.
how much work it is. What has been like the single most challenging thing
It's
besides finding time?
easily getting the liquor store.
Hmm.
That has been, and I'm between three right now, but I think I've been to every liquor store in Manhattan south of 42nd Street. I've been
Okay.
inside of them. I've
Yeah.
talked to every owner, um, and some of them just don't work aesthetically. So you go in and you might give them the spiel. You might just go in and be like, "Well, that guy doesn't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I'm going to leave."
Yeah.
Um, but I had one that I loved on Avenue C, and we had a handshake agreement. And this is like a great lesson for filmmakers. It doesn't matter. Handshake agreements don't mean nothing. You need
Yeah.
it in writing. You need to talk to the money people. And then it turned out that there was something about the lease with the landlord that we couldn't film on the premises, and blah 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 blah. And I lost my liquor store. Luckily, I got, what I'm probably going to have to do is piece the interior and exterior of a liquor
Hmm.
store together. So use the outside of one and use the inside of another, which is a thing that
Okay.
happens all the time. It's something that I'm using a couple of times in the film, because I have this big montage sequence, very much very much influenced by the Copacabana scene in Goodfellas when it
Hmm.
comes down. Though I'm not
Yeah.
doing a oneer, and I'm doing it
Yeah.
a little bit more handheld, but I love when characters go through doors and go downstairs and things open and the
Yeah.
camera stays with. I dig it. So I have a scene
Yeah.
where he goes through a Chinatown restaurant, because my dad actually used to, these two guys, these two like Chinese dudes that worked at the liquor store, Gordon and Nye, they they would go to these underground poker games in Chinatown and just bring my dad with
That's
them all
amazing.
the time. I know. Again, it's like all these stories that my dad tells. I'm like, it's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
That's the coolest
Dude.
thing. So we're creating that by using the exterior of a spot in Chinatown. Actually, Wu's Wonton,
Mhm.
I think I'm going to use
Okay.
down over there next to 169. And
Yeah.
then I'm cutting to into my buddy. My buddy works at a jazz club, and they have like a kitchen and a kind of a basement thing, and that's what I'm using as the inside. So there's a lot of like stitching things together,
Yeah.
which I'm sure most people aren't surprised that that's how filmmaking is done. It's just like whatever you can get, you get.
Yeah. But then I mean, when people are watching a movie, like because of how they're put together, they're just like, oh yeah, this is all the same
Exactly.
place. And you behind the scenes, you're like, no, it's like a pain in the ass to figure out how we're getting this exterior to
Yeah,
match this interior for it to all be like fluid over the course of a single scene or whatever.
absolutely. And that the location scouting is such a I love it, actually, because I love to schmooze. I love to talk to people. But
Yeah.
the big
Big
thing with
schmoozer.
the liquor store has been, I don't have Netflix money to shut down these guys' businesses. They need to make money.
Mhm.
I have some money that we've raised through the Instagram and through the Indiegogo, and just, off goodwill of people, right? But I can't shut them down for a day and do a 12-hour shoot. That's tens of thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
maybe around 10 to shut down a high operating liquor store in the Lower East Side or in the East Village or whatever.
You're gonna have
But
to go like the clerk's route,
4
where
a.m. I'm
yeah,
shooting from 4 a.m. to about 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. depending on when the liquor store is open. But that means they need to send guys in to open the store with me because they can't have me in there. So I'm paying them for their time, which is always the way to get their ears to perk up. Like,
yeah,
I will give you money. That's but some people just, I don't want to do those hours. I don't want to blah blah blah. But I've got one on Avenue A down by me that I think, knock on wood. Um, he freaks me out because he's very nonchalant about the whole thing. He's like, "Yeah, we can do that." I'm like,
yeah.
right, but like, let's
Let's
talk,
do it.
please.
Yeah,
And then we negotiated the price, and I got him to a price that I thought was fair enough, or a price that I can afford. And the days have to work and whatever. But that's a really, and then I would say the other after that, the other hardest thing, or the next hardest thing, would be scheduling people, because now you're
hmm
talking about like 15 people.
hmm
Like, getting everyone together at the same time is, it's hard enough to do that with like getting two of my friends to go to a baseball game with me,
yeah,
let alone like 15 people to come to my apartment to do a production meeting or whatever it is, or to do a
yeah,
rehearsal. So that's a big thing. Raising money. What, like, I'm not going to say raising money is easy, but I've not that I've raised like $1 million. We've raised like 4 grand on the Indiegogo, which is awesome, and we're still trying to get more. So I'll shill that later on. But
we'll throw a link in
there we
the
go.
episode description.
But that thing kind of works on its, once you get the stuff out there and you make the stuff, it happens. But I guess securing the liquor store and scheduling, and then just communicating with so many people, and because wearing the producer hat and taking that right off. Yesterday I was working on scheduling the script and calling the liquor store people. So like, I'm in the script doing some changes and I'm in full art guy mode, but then it's like,
Yeah,
oh, I got to call this butcher or this
yeah,
liquor store, whatever, whatever I need. So like I was saying before, you need to, it's like every little thing. Like, what is my crew drinking?
hmm
The shoot starts at 4 a.m. Where am I getting the coffee to give them? Because places aren't open at 4 a.m. So if I'm getting it
yeah,
the day before, what am I doing? Am I heating it up in my microwave? Do they have a microwave on the, like, all that stuff? So
yeah. That's a it's a lot, and
that's
like
the
these are the things that we don't think about when we're
no.
watching movies, which is why I always love having like people on the show who are actually in it and are making movies or like making media or whatever it is, because it's super easy for me to sit here and talk about why XYZ movie is good, why
Yeah,
XYZ movie is bad. And it's like, well, I've never
yeah,
fucking done it. So I actually don't know shit. So when I have people come on and they're like, yeah, I've done it. I've been in it. I know what it takes to like make a short film.
yeah.
So you can then speak to what makes one of these movies like American Graffiti so
Hmm.
great, because you actually know what it takes to make something good
Absolutely.
and meaningful.
But even shitty movies, like, you get a newfound respect for movies that suck, because it's like, it's that great Bill Parcells quote, like, what is it? He says, "For the rest of your life, they can never tell you that you didn't do it, because you did it." Like,
Yeah.
you made a thing, and it might suck, but you made a thing, and that counts for like a lot more than just something in my book. Like, now, I do think, once you put art out there,
hmm
it doesn't matter if someone's made art or not. You Everyone has every right to critique it and consume it the way they see fit. Like, if you want to just say this sucks, you have every right to, in my opinion. Like, I don't think it's the same thing with, if everyone's allowed to watch the movie, everyone's allowed to say whatever they want about the movie. Um,
hmm
and I get a big, so me be my grumpy old Jewish man, filmmaker take here. When filmmakers say, "I only make movies for myself," I'm like, "No, you don't.
Yeah.
Then you would just be alone in a closet watching it yourself. We make movies for
Yeah.
the people." Like
Yeah.
I want to
You do want to
share
share it. Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
share it with people. I love talking about movies with people, like it's it's probably my favorite thing in the world is talking about films or baseball with
Yeah.
people. Like or
I
just
mean, same.
yeah.
Yeah. The Mets and movies. That's
It doesn't get better than that.
yeah. 20 that's why we've been friends for 25 years.
1,000%.
Yeah. It's yeah, like the idea of like when you put something out there and you even with like this show, for
Yep.
me, it's like a struggle of like obviously I'm putting it out there because I want to share it with people and in its own weird way it is like kind of an art form.
Mhm.
Not in the same way that like making an actual movie is, but trying to like learn about my relationship to stuff that I put out there, whether it's like a review or an editorial or an episode of this or whatever, and like trying to understand like okay, like you're gonna make the liquor store and you're gonna make the version of that movie that you want to make that is the exact version that you want to communicate. And yes, you do want to share it with people and you do want to hear that feedback, but at the end of the day, like there is something kind of nice about just like releasing it out into the world and knowing that like you're happy with it despite
Yeah,
whatever criticisms
absolutely.
might come back.
I
um and then
I
with
can
that there's also like don't take criticism from someone who you wouldn't take advice from. So like
for sure.
if it's not someone who you're going to call up and say like how do you
Which
think I should
yeah,
splice together these two shots, then like
yeah,
who cares what you think. Yeah.
absolutely. I also I completely agree with you because at a certain point, feedback is I'm not really asking. Like, God bless you, you have it. And
Yeah.
I don't think the filmmaker really I think once it's in again, like the same thing. Once it's in the world, it's just for the people to talk about what they think about it with each other. Because the director
Mhm.
already made it. He's not going to be like, "Well, Ralph from Minnesota, that's a great idea. Let me go back and reshoot that scene."
Yeah.
It's over. I
Yeah.
did it.
I just read David Lynch's book Catching the
Oh, I
Big
heard it's
Fish.
awesome.
It's so great and it's like totally he just like writes in like how he speaks.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how he doesn't like to talk about movies once he's made them because he said everything that he needs to say
Yeah.
in making the movie.
Great
Like
quote.
that's it.
It's a
Yeah.
great quote. And if you didn't, then if I didn't, then that's on me. But if you really, David Lynch is a master. So the masters do that. And that's what all of us aspiring filmmakers or younger filmmakers are trying to do. We're trying to say everything that we have to say in our movies. I don't know if I think that's a certain level of talent and skill. Like I'm trying to get to that. I'm trying to get to the point where I can say I did it all.
You did it.
I'm
I
happy with
have I have faith.
it.
I have
Thanks.
faith that you'll be able to do it. I still have a few more questions before we start talking
Sure.
American Graffiti. So when did you like start making movies? Because I feel like you've always been a fan.
Yeah.
One of my earliest memories of you got me Billy Madison on VHS for for like my 10th birthday.
That rocks. That's
And then we
such a great gift.
like a bunch of us from class like all watched it
Yes.
together and my mom was like what the hell is this and
Was
why
it
does
did we
this
watch that
kid.
at the sleepover?
I think so,
Yeah,
yeah. And you were like quoting it for like my family and they were like what is wrong with this kid.
dude. I was quoting Billy Madison today.
That's amazing. So like I know the appreciation for film even though some people might push back against the concept of
Yeah,
Billy
high
Madison being
cinema
film.
like Billy
Yeah.
Madison.
But the love has been there for as long as I've known you. So like when did that then turn into oh shit, I'm just gonna start
Yeah.
actually
So
making movies.
the love came from my dad for sure. I remember he showed me Casablanca at a really young age, and The Godfather was. I watched that probably. Well, I was probably 9 when I saw The Godfather for the first time. Some like around there was when he really started to expose me. Maybe a little bit older. Maybe I'm making my dad sound like a terrible father there. But I don't know, whatever. He's a great dad, and he showed me
Yeah.
awesome movies. But I Dan, so my best friend Dan, who you know, Dan Sanabria, he's now my DP. He's my cameraman, and we went to a camp because Dan's father was a cameraman as well. Dan's mother is a producer in the advertising world. My mom is an art director in the advertising world. Um, but Dan and I did a camp at like SUNY Purchase or something, like a film camp at SUNY Purchase, and we made a couple movies there, and we really dug it. And m- we made a film in like a sixth grade English assignment once, and then we just kind of left it, and just always loved movies. And then I got into SVA for School of Visual Arts in Manhattan.
Mhm.
So we had kind of after middle school area, I'd kind of left the idea of like this is what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. It's like it's so annoying that or it's how are kids supposed to know what they want to do? But
Yeah.
like high school,
Which will
middle
tie back to
school,
American Graffiti.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like in that time of my life, like I didn't know that I basically in high school could only my grades weren't great, but I could draw, and I'm a pretty solid visual artist. And
Mhm.
I was in AP art class with a great professor named Mr. Seabolt, and he got basically got me into college. I got into like all these great art schools, and I was able to go to SVA, the School of Visual Arts, and there I was in for computer art, which is a great, fantastic program. It was like animation and After Effects and
Mhm.
a couple classes that I was, and it was a really heavy workload. And they were known for being like this really heavy workload and really a really intense um, chair of the department, John McIntosh. But he was a really cool guy. He was a really nice guy. And I was taking like these animation classes that I thought the finished products that the kids would make was really cool, but I couldn't it's not it wasn't really my dig. It wasn't my thing. I could do the more
Yeah.
flat surface stuff, like the more graphic designy stuff. I like that.
Mhm.
And then I found myself because I was living in a dorm with a bunch of other artists, and I found myself like helping my buddies in the film classes on like their shoots and like doing music videos. And me and my buddy Tommy Choi, we would like we met these like underground rappers, and we would go into Harlem and Brooklyn and shoot like music videos for them. And
That's
like,
awesome.
and I was spending more time and energy on that, but I wasn't getting my like any of this stuff done for my major. So my grades were
Mhm.
kind of suffering. And I finally decided, I think I was like maybe halfway through my second year. I don't remember exactly when, but I switched over to the film department, which was nowhere near as heralded as a
Mhm.
department at SVA as the computer art program was. But it was, you know, what I want to do. And I'm happy that I did it. And I went in because at that point, you didn't like earlier on you don't pick what your focus is. So there I think
Mhm.
at the time it was directing, cinematography, uh screenwriting, and I think editing had just become a focus. And I of course
Mhm.
switched in thinking I wanted to be a director because that's like everybody
Mhm.
wants to be the director. But I
Yeah.
took this class by taught by this man named Gilbert Girian, who became my mentor. And he was it was a narrative writing class, or I don't even remember that. It was a screenwriting class. He was teaching us screenwriting.
Mhm.
And I just fell in love with writing. I fell in love with screenwriting. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And that kind of became my focus. And it was like the first time in like school, in that school, or anything in general that I really felt like I was like shining. Like I was like,
Yeah.
and it took me
This
some
is
time.
my shit. Yeah.
Yeah, this is my shit. And like I was getting recognized for it, and that felt cool. I mean, like again, that's the whole thing. Like I'm not too proud to admit that like I like when people say they like my stuff. I want people to like my stuff. Like I'm making stuff for people to say
Mhm.
that. So like that felt really good, and it really just kind of propelled me forward. And then making the film with my ex that got super successful was like that was one of the first times that it felt like a like an affirmation. Like
Yeah.
I did this and then this happened because I'm good at something. And like again, like you think I remember graduating, like my movie went to Cannes and I won this award, blah blah. The world is, and then nobody cares. Nobody
Yeah.
cares. No one. You're not gonna. I was thinking like they're gonna be like, here's the new Batman movie, Dylan. Don't you love it? Like, here it is.
Yeah.
Oh, we saw your
We
little
have
movie.
PTA on the line. He's
Yeah,
yeah,
I
wants
heard
to
there's this
collab.
kid Dylan Wolf Gantz living on
Yeah.
the Upper East Side. Where is he? And then, but then that really, I really fell in love with the craft of writing then, and then kind of was trying to break in through that, and had a one or two um, paid script jobs, but nothing to sustain myself or like to say that that was my career. But then I
Mhm.
started teaching the film class with the kids, and then kind of a crossroads and the decision to go back to grad school. And now back in grad school, I've really found my love for directing as well. But I think it's because I'm older. I feel a lot more confident and comfortable in my
Mhm.
skin and in my voice.
Yeah.
Whereas before, like as a writer, I can kind of hide behind the product a little bit and put it on
Mhm.
someone else. And yeah, now like kind of um my personality and my like the way that I treat my cast and crew as a director is really, really important to me. And I want it to be like a really kind of familial feeling. Like
Yeah.
feel I want it to feel like we're all, to quote High School
Yeah.
Musical, all in this together. Um, but
Kind of
again,
like a less cringy version of the Tarantino thing where before each take he makes everyone on
yeah,
set say,
I would
"Because
never,
we love making
yeah,
movies."
yeah, I would never
Uh,
do that. I would,
but like that vibe in a
I
genuine
think,
way.
I think maybe and hey, Terrence, he can do whatever he wants. Don't get me wrong, like he could do, but I think it's I just like to have like a very positive, um like everyone should be able to talk to everyone, and that's one of the coolest things about the sets that I've been running is that my director of photography is my best and oldest friend.
Yeah.
The guy that my gaffer, who's the guy that does the lights, was my best friend from college. Who like I've just we the shorthand that we have, and then my co-writer is his cousin, who I live with the two of them, and he's become my best. So it's like when you come to the sets, the people that I'm around are
Mhm.
people not only that I'm making movies with, but people that I love just in general. So there's a real kind of like camaraderie to it, and that is like that's the type of stuff that I really dig, and that's the type of stuff that'll get people to come to your set at 4 a.m. to do
Yeah.
a liquor store movie because they want to do things when you make them feel good and
That's
appreciate.
beautiful. Not to get too sentimental, but that is very beautiful that
Oh,
that you're able to do it with people who you love, telling a story about people who you love and a city that you love, and I
yeah,
think a little bit about a baseball team that you love.
yeah. The
So
Mets are in there. It's
yeah, thank God.
there's some Mets in there. It's really I love it because it really does like when you see it, Raf, you'll be able to feel Dylan made like your buddy Dylan made this.
Yeah,
You'll know
it feels like
that it came from me, and that's something that the movie to me is going to be that much better because of all those things. Like I care about all. I mean, like of course I love my parents. I'm making a movie about them, So that's like that, and that's been such a cool thing just to spend time with
yeah,
them after the fact, and that they know it, and they're both, my parents. They're so cool. They're
yeah,
so chill, and they're
yeah.
like my mom's giving me her old clothes and stuff, and my dad finds all these old pictures, and so
That's
one
so
of the big
awesome.
things is to get the two actors to come to Neuro or go out with my mom and dad and hang with them and stuff. We're trying to set that up because
That's sweet.
yeah,
Oh, I love that so much. I love everything about it. I'm so happy that you're making this, and I know I've said it
thank
a couple times, but I truly can't wait to see it. And I do want to use your dad as a way to transition into American Graffiti
perfect.
because one of my another like very strong memory that I have from like growing up and like my early like love for film. I think we were at your house and we were watching Dazed and Confused,
Yes,
and Dazed and Confused is very much so a like companion piece or like
absolutely.
spiritual successor to this movie.
Yep,
And we were watching it and your dad walked in and he was like, "Oh, this is like basically what high school was like for me back in the day."
that's what
And
he said.
we were like 14 or 15, and I feel like so much of like our high school experience was based around like trying to live out a
You're
version of Dazed and
so right.
Confused.
You're so right. That's so funny.
But that
You're
is,
chasing
yeah,
Days Confused.
we were fully chasing it. And that movie is in a lot of ways chasing this movie. So I was hyped when you picked this as like a movie to talk about because of that connection piece. Like every
Yeah.
time I watch Dazed and Confused, low key, like I think about your dad.
Oh, that's so cool. I do too, actually,
And
because I also remember him saying that,
yeah,
and that's yeah, that's a big. I think he said something like, "This is my childhood" or something like that.
yeah,
This is
it was
exactly.
like them like smashing mailboxes when he
Yeah, yeah,
walked in.
yeah, 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 yeah,
He was like,
yeah.
yeah, that's what I used to do with my friends.
Yeah,
American Graffiti is, I would say, a more tame version of that, but like very much so sets
yeah,
the template for like what Dazed and Confused would be. Had you seen this movie in high school
yeah.
or younger or
I saw it. It was one of the. It was one of those flicks that my dad had shown me.
Mhm,
American Graffiti, and my big memory of it. My dad had showed it to me, and I really liked it. I thought it was awesome the first time. I wasn't because you can show that movie to like a 10-year-old, and
mhm,
there's nothing crazy in it. But we had it on DVD, and I remember when we would take long drives or something, like maybe to go to my grandparents in Jersey. My dad used to have like this like old Dell laptop that could play DVDs on it, and we would put the me and my brothers would sit in the big minivan, and we would
yeah,
put the laptop on like a wine box, and then one of the movies I would always watch was American Graffiti. So I remember watching the movie about car. Oh yeah, we had like the headphone splitters, and like they wouldn't reach like all the way back towards me, so I would be like in the front,
like
like
leading, yeah,
that's my like sentimental memory of like rewatching that on long rides. But watching a movie about cars in a car was kind of a cool
yeah.
deal.
This is a pretty car heavy movie.
Mhm.
Is this? Is it more of a car movie? Is it a hangout movie? Is it a high school movie? Or is it just all of those
I think
things
it's
at
all of
once?
those at once, and I read up a little bit on it, and it was a really cool thing that I read. I didn't finish this book, but it's like I read like I don't know 45 pages of it. Um, but it's very autobiographical to Lucas. So
Mhm.
George Lucas, who ends up directing Star Wars, obviously, writes and directs this, and then he basically split the characters of Milner, who's their drag racer,
Mhm.
um, Terry, the Toad, who's the
Mhm.
dorky guy, and Kurt, who's the Dreyfus character. Those are like all him. So
Yeah.
he used to be a drag racer, and he gets in this terrible car accident, and he almost dies. And the whole Milner character is kind of based on him, and that's like this formative moment in his life. Actually, that's when Lucas decides I'm going to do something with my life. So I think the answer to what you're saying is I think it's all of those. I think it's painting this he's trying to paint this picture of what that life was like for and I don't think it's just kids that are living in that area. Like you could watch it like I see connections to how we were growing up and we grew up in the suburbs of New York and there's still that kind of like lazy summer night feeling like what are we going to do tonight?
Yeah,
Every
and it's
it's
just like, "Oh,
so much
we'll just
empathy.
drive around town."
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, it's like Dazed and Confused, which, I wish that I had come to American Graffiti earlier because I feel like my love for Dazed and Confused is, like, holding me back from fully appreciating American Graffiti the way that I should, but there is that same kind of, like, okay, it is about a very specific time and place. It's about Northern California in 1962,
Yep.
which is, like, very different in a lot of ways from, like, the experience that I had growing up, but at the same time, that like aimlessness of a summer high school night when, especially when you're on the cusp of like going off to college or
Yeah,
like in this like transition phase in your life and trying to make sense of understanding like where it is that you're going to be going next in your life. That's so universal. Like it doesn't matter
absolutely.
where or when you grew up, like that is something that like pretty much everyone has to deal with. Um, and I just, yeah, I wish I had seen this a little bit earlier because I just kept going back to Dazed and Confused because like for me, that's the template for that.
I think it's a great comparison, and I would be very surprised if Linklater, who made, I don't know if he wrote it, but I'd assume he wrote it because he who directed Dazed and Confused, didn't watch American Graffiti before. Because also the other thing is, Dazed and Confused is the first day of summer. American Graffiti is the last day of summer. So
Yeah.
they're bookends to each other. That would be, if anyone's going to watch them in a certain way. I would watch Dazed and Confused. I'd love to think of maybe one in the middle to put, but you start with Dazed and Confused,
Yeah.
and yet with American Graffiti, you're starting your summer and you're ending
And
your
you're ending
summer.
your summer.
It'd be a
Yeah.
nice
But
way
it's
to watch
both, they're
them.
both about the same like period of time in your life, like right
Absolutely,
before college,
yeah. Right
trying to
before going
understand.
to high school.
Yeah, trying to figure out like what it is that you want to do with your life. All three of those characters that you mentioned, who are like versions of Lucas, are all, and the Ron Howard character, they're all like grappling with and trying to understand. Like,
Huge problem with the Ron Howard character.
let's hear it.
I just think he's a jerk. I just think the whole
Yeah,
time
yeah,
I just every time love Kurt, the
hmm
Dreyfus characters. Richard Dreyfuss. You put Richard Dreyfuss in anything, I'm in. I'm so in
yeah,
on Richard Dreyfuss. I think one of the underrated actors of the '70s, or maybe because he kind of disappeared at a certain point and didn't maybe
yeah.
didn't
It's
get
awesome that in this he looks both 14 and
at 40.
47 yeah, at the same time.
It's so true. And the way he talks too, he's such a like,
Yeah,
it's like, wait, you're from Modesto, California, dude. You sound like a
yeah,
Brooklyn Jew sometimes.
yeah,
He's like, the girl wants me. She wants me. I love that part. And I really, really appreciate the drag racer character, because there's such an easy route with that character to make him this like gruff, like screw everybody, I'm cooler, and he's so not that. He's like, he's self-aware, he's a little bit like forlorn. I love that character. Like, he's one of the ones that says to Kurt, he's like, it reminded me so much of one of the greatest scene, one of my favorite scenes, one of my favorite films of all time, when he says to Kurt at the beginning of the movie, he's like, "What are you talking about? You're gonna stay? And you don't do, like, get out of here." It's just
yeah,
like Ben Affleck talking to Matt Damon at the end of Good Will Hunting, when he's.
yeah.
It's my favorite part of the day when I think you're not gonna. Which that's like, that movie I watch once a year. I just love that movie. But that sentiment, for whatever reason, I find so noble of that character to
Yeah.
say, like, I like you, but you should go. When
Yeah.
Milner's
Well,
the,
it's like realizing in a way, like, okay, like this is all that there is for me. Like,
yeah,
I'm destined for this life
exactly.
forever. He is the Ben Affleck character in Good Will Hunting. He is the Matthew McConaughey character in Dazed
Oh,
and
Days of
Confused.
Confused. But the Matthew McConaughey character is different because he's really happy with it. He
Yeah.
loves it.
Yeah. Yeah. Milner's like he's sort of just like he's like resigned to it. Just
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
something that he like actively chooses. He is sort of like forced into it, but he does recognize in like this person that he loves and cares for that they don't have to do that. So he's pissed off by the idea that they would like
Yeah,
choose to do it, which is again something that's like super, super, super universal. I
absolutely.
have I have this other show where we talk about like race in movies, and we
Mm,
recently were talking about like movies like Boys in the Hood and like Menace to Society,
yeah,
which like aren't seen in the same vein as movies like American Graffiti, but there is a very similar sentiment from some of the characters of like,
yeah.
no, like you should get out
Get
of
out
here.
the
Like,
hood.
yeah. And like, Modesto, California isn't necessarily the hood, but like
Yeah, there's something
Kurt
else.
still should get out. Yeah, there's more to
There's a
life.
world
There's
out
more to
there.
see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And that's actually a really great point. That goes to the universality of those stories. That's the
Yeah.
thing that connects, that everyone can feel that way of wanting to leave their hometown, no matter what you could make that movie in New York City about wanting to leave New York City. It doesn't matter where it is. You
Yeah.
show me a place, I'll show you a person that wants to leave it, no matter what. Like
Yeah.
it's it's just a fact. I worked on a script about a girl that wanted to leave Hawaii, which is like, how could you want to leave Hawaii? But it's a real thing. People want to leave places.
Yeah. People want to leave their hometowns. They don't
Yeah.
want to feel stuck in a place. And it's not so much that they like dislike
No.
the physical space, they just dislike the idea of feeling stuck
Well,
in a certain way of life.
that's also the like what you were saying before. Like this is about a formative time in someone's life, like leaving for college or leaving the nest, whatever it is. That's what all those. It's the kind of the same going back to that. That's this feeling of like this brave new world out there, or this like whatever. You got to go and run into it. Yeah, I hadn't watched it in a while, and I was struck by like there's a there's a great pace to it, to the film, and it's really like listening to the radio. And I love that it's
Yeah.
basically like a. I liked most of the songs. A couple of them I was like, all right, we could skip this one, but most of the music I really really loved. And then Wolfman Jack is probably one of my favorite characters as well. I like the popsicle thing to me is hilarious. He's just really wants this guy to eat the popsicle. I thought that was a really
Yeah.
nice little detail. He's like, have a popsicle.
Yeah.
Come on,
Just have a
have a
popsicle.
popsicle. Yeah, but
The
that
yeah,
that
the I was gonna say the music in this is so it's incredible. And like I don't know that this was the first movie to like use popular music as like a soundtrack. Like this was something that was kind of happening more in the 70s. Maybe The Graduate was the first movie
The Graduate
to really
had
do
music
that.
made for it as well.
Yeah. So it was kind of like The Graduate was like a weird mix. And then from
Yeah,
there, like the new Hollywood guys, like, you know, Lucas, Scorsese, and like all of them were like, oh, we could just like incorporate popular
yeah.
music into our movie. And as like Marty's my guy, like probably favorite director of all time. But the way that Lucas uses music here is like maybe better than anyone has ever used it, like including like someone like Tarantino, who really informed a lot
Oh,
of like what we did or like what we
absolutely.
became fans of growing up. But yeah, I don't know. I think the way that Lucas uses it here is great. Would you?
I think it's cool because it feels like it's the radio. So
Yeah.
it's the radio, and also like in that car culture, in that world, the radio is such a part of that world that it's like it really, because I don't think there's any score to it, meaning there's no
There's not.
composed
Yeah.
music. It's only soundtrack music, but it's diegetic and non-diegetic in a way. Like it's for the movie, but also I'm assuming that the characters can hear it because it'll cut to the
Mhm.
car. And like there's a scene where, which I thought was really, really cool. Milner's driving around with Carol, I think her name is. And but before that, some Beach Boys song is playing. And it cuts, and it's the big swelling music, and you're seeing the streets and you're seeing the strip, and then it cuts into the car and you're hearing it as if it's coming off the radio, and Milner
Mhm.
goes, I hate that shit, and he turns the song off, which
Yeah.
is so cool. That's such a like I also don't know how, if it had been done before. I'd be surprised if it hadn't, because these guys are just taking stuff from. That's what we do. We just steal stuff from people. But
Yeah.
it's the first time that I can really think of something like that, like the score directly being interacted with by the the characters, and I thought that was awesome, and also that Wolfman Jack is your narrator kind of throughout is really
Yeah.
cool.
Kind of keeping things moving along. We're gonna have to talk a little bit more about Lucas, but I think and like where this movie sits in like his career and everything that came after and like sort of like the what could have been and everything
Yeah.
that led him up to this. But I think we always like skip over as like film fans or a film community skip over the fact that he's probably most influential as a sound guy. And
Hmm.
I forgot the name of his buddy from college who he did like most of his sound stuff with, and they like made the THX
Merch.
um that's what's his name?
Walter Murch?
Yes, that dude.
He
Um,
becomes a
but it,
really, really famous editor as well. But Murch did the sound, designed the sound montage for him as well in this. They're
in
all.
this,
I might be wrong if that's him or not, but I know that
I
he
think
did
that's the guy.
stuff. He's famous.
Um, but so what they did for this movie specifically was like because the music and soundtrack is like mostly diegetic, they like recorded it playing from
That's cool.
cars and like speakers in people's houses. So then when it plays in the movie, it actually sounds like it's
That's
coming
so
from that
cool.
as opposed to just like being like a backing track or whatever.
That's so cool.
And most normal people are not going to realize that. Like I didn't realize that when I was watching the movie,
Totally.
but it just like something like that really goes the next level in
Yeah.
terms of having audiences understand like what's going on here and like fully dropping you into that world.
It definitely does sound that they recorded it from a car or from a radio to me. Like that that was something I was thinking like cuz there's a bit of a it's not so perfect. That's
Hmm.
what it sounds like it's coming from somewhere else, like and, there's, like, a buzzing and stuff sometimes, like, when the channel is changing, which is really cool. I didn't know that he designed it specifically like that for the theater. That's awesome. I mean, that does very much inform his later very, very famous work talking about sound and stuff.
Yeah.
I hear you on that.
So, all right. Talking about Lucas and like his later work, his more famous work, the thing that
Yeah,
becomes
yeah,
like
those
all
little
consuming for
movies.
him. Yeah. Those little, what is it?
Yes,
Star,
something like that. I don't
star
know,
fights or
something
something
like
like that.
that.
Um, what would have happened if Lucas had made more movies like this instead of just
Well,
like fully diving into Star Wars and having
I
that take
actually
over his
think
entire existence?
I actually think that, like, he this isn't that far out of Star Wars in a weird way. Like, it's about kids, teenagers, and
Hmm.
I never realized this until, like, rewatching Star Wars being older, like, they're so young. Like,
Hmm.
the main characters of A New Hope, Luke is, like, 16, 17 or so or I don't even know how old Mark Hamill is, but he looks like a kid. They're all supposed to be kids,
Yeah.
and it I don't also, I do know a little bit about how much Lucas loved these old, like, science fiction serials, like, I think it's, like, Buck Rogers or something, and he like or Flash Gordon, which is, like
Yeah.
so and then the film that he made before American Graffiti, is THX, which is, like, a dystopian science fiction film, that
Hmm.
I've only seen pieces of. I did wanna watch it in full before this, um but I like science fiction is definitely like a big part of his. What I do think is like what makes me a little bit sad is that I did find that there was a really, really nice touch in this film for these smaller moments, um,
Hmm.
which are like there's a maybe like 2 or 3 of them in Star Wars later on, but it's impossible to really so to your point, like, he could have probably made a bunch more flicks like this that would have been good. The thing is, I don't I think that it's a hard reality to live in because Star Wars was the thing that he wanted to do.
Hmm.
So he was inspired to do that. He wanted to make American Graffiti, but I think it's like the thing we were saying, that's his autobiographical flick, and I think it's one of those things where it's like I said everything that I wanted to
Yeah.
say on this. Now
Yeah.
I'm in this big, big world, and I want to make big, big movies. Um,
Yeah. I think because THX sort of flopped and people didn't love it, I think Coppola was in his ear and he was like, George, you should make something that's like more grounded, more real world. Also, this is like in the middle of the new Hollywood wave with
yep,
like Coppola had like just made The Godfather
Godfather
and
just came out. That's exactly
Serpico was like the biggest thing in the world, and like all of those movies are coming out, and like people aren't ready for Star Wars yet. Like they're
yeah,
not going to be ready until they're getting like pounded with new Hollywood stuff for like another like 4 or 5 years before they're ready to turn to Star Wars.
totally.
So it made sense that Coppola was like, dude, I know that's what you want to make, but you should make something a little bit more. realistic, maybe not as gritty as like everything else that we're making, but something that is at least set in the real world.
Well,
But
that's
this is like,
it's true though. That's like what you're saying is exactly what happened. But I also think there's a big it's palatable, like everyone can watch it. And also this movie becomes a huge financial success. Like it's one of the biggest grossing films like for how much of the budget it was in
mhm,
history or something like it's this movie is wildly successful, and that's another reason why this film begets Star Wars. Because again,
mhm.
like you said, THX is a big flop. No one's betting on this. Uh, I forgot what the studios were, but they back out of it. Coppola's then like, I'll pay for it myself, and then I think United Artists or it's Universal. I forgot who produces
I
it.
think it's Universal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Universal's like, okay, fine, we'll do it because Coppola says he'll do it. And he also Coppola had just made The Godfather, so like he could kind of do no wrong then.
put his name
But
on anything and people are down. Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it is a you could take the whole family to see it. I think adults, teenagers, and kids could watch it. But there's also like I think there's a real undercurrent of like like what you were talking about. The grittiness might not be up front. It's under the
Mhm,
surface. They they're talking about for like the Vietnam War is on the horizon, and it's a movie. And it's the thing that I was reading is really interesting. It's a movie that knows the future, right? So it's taking
mhm.
place in the '60s after all the all these events of the '60s have happened. So like when Kurt's ex girlfriend is like his biggest dream is to meet President John F. Kennedy, the audience knows, well, that's not going to happen because this guy's not going to make it.
Dallas. Yeah.
And they do a similar thing then at the end with your two of the main characters. They're like, this guy died in Vietnam or he's missing in action, and this guy
Mhm.
died in a car accident. So that like, though it does feel like this kind of I don't know, like teen,
Yeah.
there's a real undercurrent of what the world is. And I was reading
It's
about a
not
little bit how people give it critique on the nostalgia, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. And I also don't think that it's portraying the world in this perfect way at all, you know?
no. I was gonna say it's not like the like Amblin '80s and the way that it was like looking back on the '50s with like this like great fondness. I think it is, it comes out in '73. It's in the middle of this new Hollywood
Yeah.
shift that is like very much so reacting to all of the turmoil of like the mid to late '60s. And this movie's taking place before all of that stuff happens. And it's not necessarily saying like, oh wow, the world was so great before JFK died in Vietnam and the Cuban Missile Crisis and all that. It's just like, yeah, like that is it's on the cusp. Like you can feel that
Yeah.
it's on the cusp. And it makes sense that these characters are also on the cusp as like the world is on the cusp. And
Yeah.
like they don't know. They don't know
They're
that
naive.
Vietnam is on the horizon. So like if Kurt had known that, then like maybe he would have picked a different path for himself moving forward and like would have
Yeah.
never thought twice about staying behind versus going to
Yeah.
college.
Yeah. I
But
think
yeah,
it's also about that generation's naivete, or like, I don't know, like to your point, they have no idea what's coming, but they're also this first generation that is able to kind of go out into the world. Like that's another thing that I was reading about the autobiographical part of Lucas's life. Like cuz he's a boomer, he's a baby boomer. So it's like the first generation that can go and become something and like
mhm,
can live kind of, and it's a lot about consumption, like consumerism and stuff as well. Which again, like I was reading that in the couple articles, but I never felt like the film was bashing me over the head with anything, and that's the point that I was making of like that. I felt like this film had a really nice soft touch in doing
mhm,
those. And there's a lot of stuff that's going below the surface that it could just be scholars are looking at it and saying, well, look how brilliant Lucas is. I always wondered about
mhm.
that sometimes. Like, is it just, is he that smart, or did it? Because they're always talking about how
Yeah.
amazing the little symbolism. I forgot what one of them was. One of them was, oh, basically like how. how death is everywhere. They talk about the serial killer. Uh, they're talking about there's like a couple of other moments of death that they talk about in the film, and they're saying like the guy that was wrote this article was preface like saying that it's these characters are used to talking about death, like it's not
Hmm.
like beyond their comprehension. So they that's why these kids want to uh, take everything in because they're doing like atom bomb drills in school where they have to go under the
Yeah.
table. I was talking to my dad about it because I think your dad is too. They're boomers, and that was the time. Like, you want to enjoy the world that you live in because like everyone could die soon.
Yeah.
Like a big part of it. I think.
It 100%. The whole like, is this just like a boomer nostalgia trip is an interesting question because I don't think that it's
Yeah.
like far enough removed from the time that it's reflecting on
Yeah.
to be fully nostalgic about it. Like we watch it in 2025 and it's like, oh yeah, that's just like boomers pining for a time that actually wasn't that great. And I don't think that Lucas was like necessarily doing that. Like this isn't Forrest Gump. You
Yeah.
know, like
For sure.
it's it's just him communicating like a very real aspect of like his lived experience.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, scholars and whatever everyone else, we're just projecting onto it with like the additional context that we have from both world history, film history, George Lucas's like
Yeah.
filmography going
That
forward.
might be one of the biggest things too, is because like this movie is is a critical and financial success, but then and it's got like there's not really indie movies back then, but it's got like an indie movie feel to it a little bit, like a smaller movie, like and all the actors are kind of unknowns, and Lucas is like a young dude, but then he goes and he
Mhm.
makes Star Wars, so then you know he's not as respected as a filmmaker in like the grand thing where American Graffiti is this like kind of little with like this undercurrent of stuff, and maybe it's a little bit less respected because of what he goes on to make afterwards. um like Star Wars and Indiana Jones become like the two, like I don't
Biggest franchise. Yeah.
yeah, what else, there's no real other. Once he starts Star Wars, he does Indiana Jones. There's nothing else in his.
Which Spielberg directed. He didn't
Yeah.
even, he
Well, he
wrote it, but
wrote and produced them because
yeah.
they're he and Spielberg's idea, and
Yeah.
the direction of Star Wars is, I mean, of uh, Indiana Jones is like a whole nother. Spielberg is fantastic as well. Like that's the
Yeah.
other thing. These guys are incredibly talented too. That's like
Yeah. I mean,
the
it's it's amazing that, right, like, yeah, Coppola was the one who came to George Lucas and he was like, I'll produce this for you so that it can get made. And then
yeah,
Lucas makes Star Wars and they're buddies with, uh, Spielberg, who just made Jaws. And Lucas is like, I have this Indiana Jones story, but like, I shouldn't direct it. Hey, Steve, can you direct it
yeah,
for me?
sick.
Yeah, like,
I'm
must
so
be
jealous
really,
of that.
really nice.
I was reading about that in the book, and they're like, because like American Zoetrope is their group, and it's Spielberg, Coppola, Lucas, John
De
Milius,
Palma.
John
Yeah.
Milius is like one of my favorite screenwriters of all time, who wrote Apocalypse Now, and um, he wrote the original Red Dawn. He's a great writer. He wrote HBO's Rome, which is a very underrated HBO show, but it's like they like make their little thing, and they're these young dudes out of college, and they go to these studios. They're like, yeah, give us money to make movies, and the studios are like, okay, yeah, cool. I'm like, what? Where? Give me that. I want that.
That's we've all been chasing that. We've all just been chasing this. We've all been trying to recreate the film brats vibe.
Oh
Uh
yeah, I mean they're,
just we
but
have
again,
talented friends, but
they're
it
amazing.
yeah,
They end up making. So my other, what I always wonder about that group in particular, so Lucas, Coppola, uh Spielberg, there's it's a huge group. There's even, I think, Michael Mann is a part of it, or John, or big big group
De
of like
Palma was one of their
Palma.
boys.
Palma's the guy that
Yeah.
I'm, Milius.
Yeah.
I think I
And then also
confused
John Williams is just like
John
he's
Williams
like
is.
He's like, yeah, I'll just score everything for you guys.
And they all, I wonder what the count of Academy Awards between these guys is, but like, is it just the luck of the draw that they're all together? Do they make each other better? Is it the mixture of both? Is it the time? Because it's just wild to me that that many phenomenal filmmakers are just in such a small group. So they must have just made each other so much better. And they also had they found the way to get the resources, which is the
Yeah.
best part for them. I would like some of those resources.
Yeah. It's, I mean, not to get too deep into Star Wars, but like, it's insane that Lucas showed, Coppola, Spielberg, De Palma, like the original cut of Star Wars, and De Palma was like, "You should put a scroll telling everyone like
Yeah,
what's
it's his
the deal
idea.
with this story." And like, okay, cool,
And
that
I
must be
think
really nice.
Milius wrote the first one, right? Or something like that. Like there's a
Yeah, he
story.
probably co-wrote it. Yeah,
Some I know Milius wrote the monologue in Jaws that Quint said, like a doll's eyes.
yeah,
He wrote that over the phone to Spielberg, and one he was because that story about, not to get into Jaws, but it's the 50th anniversary of Jaws. It's the
yeah,
story of the USS Louisiana that gets the
yeah.
guys get eaten by sharks. And Milius knew that story and told it to Spielberg over the phone, like in character. And Spielberg used it in the shoot the next. Like that group, it's so dope. They just made such dope shit.
It's absolutely absurd. Um, the other thing about this movie that I think really stands out is like the like set design and production design, and just like the way that it looks and feels.
Yeah,
Um, I think that's something that you have to nail in order for a hangout movie to be great. Like part of the reason that Dazed and Confused works so well as a hangout movie is that everything looks and feels like the 70s. People
yeah,
love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because it looks and feels like the 60s. What did you think of like all of
yeah.
that production
I
set
totally
design stuff?
agree. And honestly, it's so good that I think the first couple times I saw it, I had no idea it was a period piece.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a film that was made in the time that it took place in. And there's nothing about it that jumps out that makes you think anything. I love the diner. Also, the other thing that it does that helps itself a lot is it doesn't go to many places.
Yeah.
It's on the strip. He gets the cars, and those cars are probably way more accessible to get back then. So it's again because it's only 10 years after the thing, right? He makes it and shoots it in 71 or 72. It's taking
Yeah.
place in 62. But yeah, and it doesn't. It never felt like it was being silly with the costumes. Even like the
Hmm.
pharaohs, which I love those guys. I love that little part. Those the gangsters that he meets that they rob the
Yeah.
pinball machines with, and you just know that at the end of it they're going to kind of like him. Like you just know that's coming, which I
Yeah.
love that part. But yeah, it's just really understated, well done, authentic costume design. But it goes to because Lucas lived it, so it
Hmm.
probably wasn't the craziest, sourcing all that. And yeah, like they don't. There's not
It's not
that
like
many.
drawing attention to the
No.
fact that it's a period piece. It's not like, hey, this
Yeah,
is about a different time or whatever. It just, yeah, like you said, it could have been made in 62 because that's how it looks and
that's how it
feels.
feels. I mean, the cars are awesome. What's his name? Milner's car is so cool. The yellow. I don't even know what that. I don't know anything about cars, but I love that car. It's got so much. It's got the most personality. Actually, Kurt's car is cool too. That little beater that he has. I love that
Yeah.
car.
I'm also not a car guy, so I can't add much.
Yeah, apparently the script was like the details on the cars were like he wrote
Yeah,
every little detail because Lucas was a
was a car
gearhead.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy that it was a car accident that almost took his life that gave
Yeah,
us one of the greatest directors of all time.
totally. That's how you get Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, man, because a guy got into a
Yeah.
car accident.
Also great that we get Han Solo because Harrison Ford was working as like a set
Carpenter.
carpenter on this
Yeah.
movie, and George Lucas was like, "Hey, you're the most beautiful man of all time. You should be in
Yeah, he
front of the
really is
screen."
though.
Yeah.
He
But
really,
yeah.
really is. Like that's he's I that's I thinking the same exact thing. Like when he pulls up in his car, I'm like, that is the handsomest person I've ever seen in my entire life. Like
Yeah. Like
That must have been so
Great
funny.
call,
Like,
George Lucas, to be like, you should be in
yeah,
front of the camera. You're too hot.
why are you
Yeah.
hammering that? Get down from there. Do you see how ugly this guy is? This is
Yeah.
carpenter. You don't have
Yeah.
carpenter face.
Ron Howard has carpenter face. You don't.
Yeah, Ron Howard. That character. The only it's not even it's not a critique on the film at all. It's just I just think the character is a jerk. I just think he's a jerk the whole
Yeah.
time.
If that character were played by someone not named Ron Howard,
Yeah,
people would have absolutely hated him. The only reason that he's seen as being like
gets
somewhat
away with it.
charming is
It's so true.
because it's Ron Howard. Uh, the the last like big question that I have about this movie, which is like the most obvious question I think, is how does this work as just like a hangout movie? Is this the OG hangout movie? Were there hangout movies before this?
Hmm.
Or does this kind of then like set the template for things that come after?
I mean, it might. I don't know because I can't think of anything earlier than it that has that kind of like very slow ambling vibe. It's got to be like some French or Italian movies where the people are just like drinking wine or smoking cigarettes the whole time. That would
Yeah.
maybe be considered a hangout movie. I also think that it gets away from the hangout movie with the near death experience at the end. That the stakes get a little bit raised when
Hmm.
the Harrison Ford and the love interest almost die in a fiery car accident. They
Yeah,
they
that's
really kinda casually deal with that afterwards, and I had always remembered it that Harrison Ford dies, and then I was very happily surprised that he lived because I love Harrison Ford, but then just how badass it was when John Milner he literally hands him his hat, which is
yeah,
so cool. He's just and then, like, Toad is like, "You're still number 1, John," and he's just like, "Yeah." But
yeah,
actually his "yeah" is a little bit more like, "Yeah, sure," t like, "This is all I
just
got."
like shut up to yeah,
Yeah.
like whatever, dude. Um, yeah, that is a bit much for hangout movie vibes, but
Yeah, I mean, it's still a great hangout movie, like,
yeah,
what would be some others that are up there? Like, what do you like, Dazed and Confused obviously is a great also, there's not enough I guess for my hangout movie, I need, like, people to be doing drugs and I guess that they Toad and the girl drink, so that's in there.
yeah, the whole liquor store sequence is hilarious.
Yeah, that's a great part. When the guy robs it, I love
Yeah,
that part. And then the guy just comes out shooting too.
yeah, it's so it goes like that scene goes on for like a little bit too long,
Yeah,
but it
it's got a good
drags
payoff.
out just enough that yeah,
Yeah,
it's so funny.
that's one of the that was one of my that made me laugh out loud. I think that might be my only laugh out loud in the whole one. That's a good because it's not like a crack up side hurting laughter movie, but
Hmm.
I don't know. Would you bill it as a comedy? I
I don't
think
know.
I think it might count
Coming
as
of age comedy. I don't
yeah
know.
yeah. Like a coming of age story doesn't need to make you laugh that hard to still be like in the comedy realm. It's because
It
it's
doesn't have
not
to be super bad. Yeah.
stakes aren't crazy high. You know? And I think to your point on the Hangout movie, it's very ambling. So I think
Hmm.
that gives it the but yeah, again, like I wouldn't know I can't think of any offhand that would have come before it.
I don't either. I think everything else kind of has like the vague makings of a plot, where this is just sort of we're just aimlessly wandering around, which is again sort of the thing about these like high school summer nights where
Yeah.
the whole thing is we don't know what to do. We feel aimless both like in this particular moment and in the grand scheme of,
Yeah.
where it is that we're going in life. To circle back to like what we were saying before about like when you're 18 in college, like how the hell am I supposed to know if I want to be a filmmaker right now? Like
Absolutely.
I'm 18, like I barely know how to wipe my ass.
Yeah, all I
you
want
know?
to do is get a beer at this bar that the guy maybe won't card me at. That's
Yeah.
all Yeah, the
I
funny
want to
thing is
meet up with my friends at the diner and then like
oh,
maybe we'll drive around and like try to talk to some
you know the
girls.
diner's gone. Of course you know the diner's gone.
Yeah, our diner is gone. Yeah, not the diner from this movie. Although the diner from this movie is probably also gone.
I think
Um,
Mel's Diner is like a famous it's either a chain or like a famous thing, so it might still be around. I think it might become a chain or something because I've seen the sign for Mel's Diner
okay,
before, but
but the Mirage Diner is gone, which was that was our diner where we would.
a lot of New Rochelle references that like 4
Yeah,
people will get. But rest in peace to the Mirage Diner and that chick that had the woman that had the really short hair and the nose ring that worked there like every night. She was
Oh
super
yeah,
sweet.
she was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
she was super nice.
I don't
She
know
would
where
be
she
just get
disintegrated
bombarded.
when they knocked the diner down. She only existed
She
with
just turned into dust.
yeah.
Yeah. Hope she's well.
Yeah,
If
me
you're
too.
listening, give us a shout,
Never
whatever
knew
your
your
name
name.
was. Yeah, nice lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like the Hangout movie is really just like it's like just this and Dazed and Confused. Like
Well, there's the great one, did you see Everybody's All American?
no.
That's like the pseudo sequel to Dazed and Confused. So it's Linklater later on.
Oh
It's
yeah.
awesome.
Okay, I haven't seen it. Yeah,
It's awesome.
that's.
They're a college baseball team. So it's basically like if the kid from
Mhm.
Dazed and Confused got really good at baseball and then went to college, that's why they call it the sequel. It's not the actual kid, but it's like a
Yeah,
pseudo
but it's like
sequel.
kind of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the
Okay,
70s. I think it's the late 70s, and he goes to college to play baseball, but they're just getting shithoused for a day. It's awesome. Movie rocks. Like
that's amazing.
nothing happens. It's you chill with these guys for a day. I
Uh,
think I think Glenn Powell's in it. There's a bunch of guys that became
mhm.
somewhat something. My only critique on that one is some of their wigs look ridiculous. Like they're wearing really bad 70s wigs.
Okay, I do
Either
love
just
a
grow
good
your
movie
hair out.
wig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would dig that
Shout
one
out
though.
Kate
You
Mara in Fantastic Four. Great movie wig. Yeah, I should check that out. There should be more movies that are just about people sort of like aimlessly wandering around and just derping around, for lack of a better word.
yeah, but it's there needs to be something to like sink your teeth into, right? Like for me, always watching American Graffiti, it's I never cared about Steve and Lori. That never.
Mhm.
I really was into Kurt's storyline, finding the blonde chick. I like
Mhm.
that, and I just like the character. Like the people need to have something that like basically you need to give the guy a chick to chase. That's all these movies have that. They're just looking or
Yeah.
a party to go to or whatever. There needs to be something for them to like
Yeah.
for them to find.
It's
Um
not fully aimless wandering. There
because
is.
I was gonna say when we were in high school, our movies never had some like or our nights never had like some like big like like I now understand my life moment. I'd always be like, all right, well, like it's 2 a.m. I'm gonna go to like
Yeah.
because we're doing nothing.
Yeah.
You need to
We're
go
hanging
home.
out.
Cool.
We've had
Like
a couple beers.
yeah,
I'm
should
gonna
we like
go
stop at
get a burger
McDonald's?
at the. Yeah.
Exactly.
Get some Taco Bell and call it a night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that maybe I would watch that movie where actually nothing happens. I
Yeah,
don't know.
maybe. I mean, that seems like we've missed the next generation's American Graffiti,
I mean,
Days and
one of these
Confused.
days,
Maybe you're going to be the one to make it. You're going to make a
yeah,
movie that's
I've always wanted to
about
come back.
kids going to the Mirage Diner and.
Yeah, I've always wanted to come back to Neuro and shoot something kind of about our because at a certain point, your childhood becomes the nostalgia for like kids are because I'm work in this middle school and like my students are like nostalgic not for the 90s like the mid 2000s.
Yeah,
Like
like
mid 2000s are like and I'm like that's like a
why
shock
are
to me.
you yearning for 2004?
Yeah, at least
Sucked.
2006 when the Mets were good.
Yeah. It always comes back to the Mets.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Um, well, dude, I have nothing else on American Graffiti. I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to chat through, but I feel like we hit
Yeah,
most of the vibes.
absolutely. That was it's awesome, man. Loved talking movies with you, and I thank you for letting me shamelessly plug my stuff. I'll
Yeah,
try and be back and do more. I dig it. If you want me to do more flicks with you, I enjoy it very
yeah.
much.
I love chatting about liquor store and American Graffiti. We'll put a link to the
Yeah.
to the fundraising page so folks can support independent cinema. We very highly encourage people doing that. And then when's the movie expected to be done and
So
premiere and all that?
we're supposed to wrap shooting in early November, and then I'll be editing from that time to a screening for the City Visions. City College City Visions has a big screening actually at SVA Theater, my
Mhm.
alma mater. So that's a really cool thing to share for people to come and support all of these young filmmakers, because my classmates are kick-ass filmmakers, and we're all working on some really really dope shit. So
Nice.
independent, and we're not that there's anything wrong with these places, but we're not NYU or Columbia. We don't have the funds. We're like a very kind of, we're the underdogs. We're the Mets. We're the Mets.
Yeah.
That's
A
what
little
it's all about.
bootstrappy, more
Yeah,
bootstrappy. Yeah.
exactly.
If anyone's listening in the New York area and can make it out
That's
to these screenings,
That's in May. That'll be in May, and if you start following like all of our films pages, we'll be posting stuff on the Instagram and
yeah.
all the information.
Thanks again to Dylan for joining. Screenagers, thanks again for joining us. As always, we will be back next week on the same feed with another essential movie. We're going to be talking Hitchcock. We're going to be talking Rope. Very excited for that one. Steven from the Stacks podcast is going to be joining me for that one. Very much so looking forward to that conversation. We hope to see you there on whatever feed it is that you are catching us currently. And as always, in the meantime, we will see all of you lovely folks in the wasteland.